Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that's, well, absolutely fundamental for thriving in the business landscape of 2025.
Mm,
It's that really intimate connection between your company's culture and the experience your customers have their CX.
right.
And we're not just, glancing at CX as some separate department. We're diving deep into how you can weave it into the actual DNA of your organization.
And look, this isn't just some nice-to-have idea.
Mm,
The data is really compelling. Deloitte's research, for instance, it clearly shows customer-centric companies are just plain more profitable.
yeah, I saw that.
But then you flip it, and PwC found that just one single bad experience,
Yeah.
well, that can be enough to drive nearly a third of your customers away.
Wow, a third.
Yeah, it really shows CX has become like a linchpin for success, no question.
Precisely. So our mission here in this deep dive is to pull out those actionable steps, things you can actually do to genuinely align your company culture with those customer experience goals.
Mhm.
We want to help you foster that synergy, the kind that builds real loyalty, strengthens trust, and at the end of the day, fuels that long-term growth.
And thinking about 2025, getting CX right, it's not really optional anymore, is it? Customer expectations have just shifted so dramatically. It's
Totally.
not enough to just have a decent product or service. Customers now demand experiences that are fast, sure, intuitive, yes, but also empathetic,
Mhm.
personalized, and consistently so.
Consistently is the key word there, I think.
It really is. Think about this stat. Nearly half, 49% of customers who leave a brand say it's because of poor CX.
Mhm.
And for almost a third, it only took one bad interaction.
It's just one. That's quite sobering.
It is.
But let's flip the narrative, like you said. Let's look at the positive side. Bain and Company found that just a small 5% increase in customer retention can boost profits anywhere from 25% up to, well, an incredible 95%.
That's huge.
It's massive. And the secret sauce behind that kind of loyalty, it's what's happening inside your company walls. It's the culture.
Yeah.
So, okay, with all that said, where do we even start trying to build this?
Right. Well, the very first step, and it's critical before you even think about transforming anything, is you've got to get a really crystal clear understanding of your current state.
Okay.
You need an honest look, an assessment of how your existing culture actually aligns or doesn't align with what you want your customer experience to be. Think of it like mapping the terrain before you start the journey.
Okay, mapping the terrain. I like that. So let's unpack that. What does that actually involve? What are the concrete actions?
Well, it means actively gathering feedback and analyzing it rigorously.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to listen to your customers. That's a given.
Mhm.
But just as vital, maybe even more so initially, is getting input from your own people.
Your employees and leaders.
Exactly. Your employees, your leaders.
Mhm.
What are their perceptions of how customer-focused the organization actually is right now?
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, your frontline teams, they're the ones who often have the most direct line to the customer, right?
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
see it day in, day out, so their insights are invaluable.
Sure.
Then another key action is doing customer journey mapping workshops.
Explain that a bit for listeners who might not be familiar.
Sure. Basically, you visually map out every single touch point, every step a customer takes when they interact with your company, from, first hearing about you all the way through to purchase and maybe even after sales support.
Okay.
And doing this, it really helps you pinpoint where the friction points are. Where are things clunky or frustrating for the customer? Then you got to dig into the data you already have.
Like NTS and CSAT scores.
Yeah, your net promoter scores, that tells you about loyalty, your
Wow.
CSAT, your customer satisfaction ratings, and really importantly, look at your customer complaints. Don't shy away from them. Look for the patterns, the trends.
Right. So we're gathering evidence from all these different angles, almost like detective work. What about inside the company, our own processes?
Definitely. You need to do a thorough audit of your internal communications, your workflows.
Mm.
Do they actually support being customer-centric? Or do they create roadblocks?
Hmm.
And maybe the most telling thing, pay really close attention to what your leaders are saying
Hmm.
and doing. Are they actively talking about CX
Mhm.
consistently? Is it clearly a priority coming from the top?
That leadership messaging piece feels huge.
It is. Because getting this full comprehensive picture, that's your foundation. It lets you see the cultural misalignments, the gaps, and that's what enables you to plan for real effective change.
Okay, great. So step one, understand where you are right now. We've got a solid grasp on that. What's the next logical step on this path to building that customer-centric culture?
Step two is really about starting that journey with purpose. with real intention.
Okay.
Building this kind of culture, it's not a quick project you tick off a list. It's a long-term strategic commitment. You got to think of it like a marathon, definitely not a sprint.
The marathon, not a sprint. Got it.
And it absolutely requires that commitment from leadership, and it needs to involve everyone right across the organization.
So how do we, get this marathon started properly? What are the key actions here?
First off, you need to define a really clear CX vision. What does great CX actually look like and feel like for your brand? And what are the core values that underpin that vision?
Get specific about it.
Exactly. Then, once you have that clarity, you absolutely have to secure visible and, really active buy-in from your senior leaders. They can't just nod along. They need to be championing it
Mm-hmm.
vocally,
Mm.
consistently.
That top-down support seems critical. You hear that a lot. What about the folks on the front lines, the ones dealing with customers every day?
Oh, they're absolutely central to this. You must empower them. That means giving them the right tools, the right training, and this is key, the autonomy to actually solve customer issues effectively.
So trusting them to make the right call.
Yes, trust them. Let them make decisions that are in the customer's best interest without having to jump through hoops for approval every time. And alongside that, you need to actively look for and nurture those people in your organization who are naturally passionate about this stuff.
Your internal champions.
Exactly. Find those internal champions who can model the behavior you want to see and really advocate for this customer-centric approach among their peers.
So it sounds like you're trying to build a bit of a grassroots movement within the company as well.
That's a great way to put it. And to keep that momentum going, you need to establish regular, almost ingrained CX-focused rituals and routines.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, it could be things like always reviewing customer feedback in team meetings, regularly sharing positive customer stories, internally making heroes of those who deliver great experiences, and setting up really robust feedback loops so there's this continuous conversation happening.
So it becomes part of the normal rhythm of work.
Precisely. This whole step is about laying that essential cultural groundwork. It's the foundation that all your other CX efforts will build on.
Okay, makes sense. Now, we live in a world that's, increasingly driven by tech, AI, automation. It's everywhere. How do we make sure we don't lose that vital human touch in the quest for efficiency? How does that fit into CX?
That is such an important question. And it takes us straight into step 3, deliberately keeping people right at the heart of your CX strategy.
Keeping people at the heart.
Yeah. Because while technology can offer amazing benefits, efficiency, scale, absolutely, it's that genuine human connection that really builds lasting brand loyalty. Remember that PwC study we mentioned?
Yeah, about companies losing the human touch.
Exactly. Nearly 60% of consumers feel companies have lost that human element in customer service. That's a huge number.
It really is, and we've all felt that, haven't we? Like you're just talking to a script or a bot sometimes. So how do we actively counteract that? How do we keep the human front and center?
Well, it actually starts right back at hiring. When you're recruiting, don't just look for technical skills. Actively prioritize candidates who show strong emotional intelligence.
EQ, like empathy, communication.
Precisely. Empathy, great communication, adaptability. Can they handle different, maybe difficult customer situations? Then, make sure your onboarding process right from day one hammers home your CX values. Make it crystal clear what good customer interaction looks like in your company and why it matters so much.
So setting that expectation and tone right from the start. What about ongoing development for the teams?
Oh, absolutely critical. You need to invest in ongoing soft skills training. Things like active listening, really hearing the customer, handling difficult conversations with genuine empathy, learning how to personalize interactions, go beyond the script.
Moving beyond the script, yeah.
And never, ever underestimate the power of celebrating wins, especially those moments where employees delivered truly exceptional human-centered service. Share those stories widely inside the company. It inspires others. It reinforces what you value.
Make heroes of those people.
Exactly. And finally, make it easy for employees to give feedback. Create simple ways for them to suggest improvements based on what they're hearing directly from customers. If you prioritize the human element internally, it will naturally, authentically shine through in the experience your customers receive.
Okay, so we're building the culture, focusing on the human touch.
Yeah.
How do we actually know if it's working? How do we measure if all this effort is making a real difference?
That's where step 4 comes in.
Mm.
You have to measure your progress and, just as importantly, celebrate the wins along the way.
Measure and celebrate.
Yeah. Look, culture change is a journey. There will be ups and downs. So tracking your progress with the right metrics and taking time to acknowledge Successes, big ones and small ones. That's absolutely vital for keeping momentum going and keeping morale high.
Okay, so what kind of metrics should we be looking at beyond the usual operational stuff?
Right. You need to go beyond just efficiency metrics. Select CX measures that try to capture that emotional connection customers feel with your brand, their overall satisfaction.
The fuzzy stuff.
Sort of, yeah. But you can measure it. Consistently analyze your voice of the customer,
Yeah.
your VOC data. That means looking at scores, sure, but also digging into the comments, the sentiment, in open-ended feedback, qualitative data from surveys, interviews. And look at customer effort scores. How easy is it for customers to actually do business with you?
Right, so it's not just did we solve the problem efficiently, but how did the customer feel about the whole interaction?
Exactly. And don't forget to look inwards, too. Evaluate your internal employee engagement metrics.
Like retention.
Yeah, employee retention, performance levels. What are your internal culture surveys telling you? Are people feeling aligned and motivated? And then, crucially, make a real consistent effort to recognize and celebrate both the big milestone achievements and the everyday actions that really exemplify your CX goals.
Shout about the successes.
Absolutely. Share those success stories publicly within the company. That kind of recognition, it just powerfully reinforces what's important and encourages more of that great customer-centric behavior.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, what happens if we start doing all this, but we realize our underlying operations, our processes, our strategies, they're just not quite lining up with this customer-centric culture we're trying to build? They might even be working against it.
That brings us neatly to the very crucial step 5. Consciously aligning your entire operational strategy with your CX culture.
Aligning operations with culture.
Yes, because for the culture to really stick, to flourish, and to consistently deliver great CX, it has to be backed up by processes and strategies that actually reflect those same customer-first values. It can't just be posters on the wall.
So it's not enough for people to want to do the right thing for the customer. The systems need to actually help them do it.
Precisely. You need to start by proactively breaking down those departmental silos that so often get in the way of a smooth customer experience.
Classic silos, yeah.
Foster genuine cross-functional collaboration. Get teams talking and working together with the customer journey in mind. Then take a hard look at your KPIs, your key performance indicators. Are departmental goals actually supporting positive customer outcomes?
Sure.
Or are they accidentally creating conflicts? Maybe the sales team is incentivized purely on volume, even if it leads to unhappy customers down the line.
That's a really sharp point. Sometimes focusing purely on internal efficiency can actually hurt the customer experience.
It absolutely can. You need to be prepared strategically to prioritize a positive customer experience, even if sometimes it means a slight trade-off with pure operational efficiency in a specific situation.
So speed is good, but not at all costs.
Exactly. Speed matters, efficiency matters, but not at the expense of satisfaction. And finally, look really carefully at how you incentivize behavior. Are your bonuses, your recognition programs, tied only to internal metrics, or are they also linked directly to positive customer outcomes and feedback?
Rewarding the right things.
Yes. When your day-to-day operations truly reflect your cultural values, that's when you deeply embed that customer-first thinking into the very fabric of the company.
We've covered so much ground here. It feels like a really comprehensive framework, but it seems like all of this, ultimately, really hinges on one key thing, doesn't it? Leadership.
You've hit the nail on the head. And that takes us to our final, but arguably the most vital, step 6, making culture an absolute, unwavering leadership priority.
Step 6, leadership priority.
Yeah, because real, lasting culture change, it doesn't just bubble up from nowhere. It absolutely starts at the top. Leaders at every single level have to consistently model customer-centric behavior themselves in their decisions, their actions, and they need to actively hold their teams accountable for delivering on the CX promises the organization makes.
So what does that look like in practice? What should leaders actually be doing to champion this?
Well, first, they need to explicitly weave CX objectives into their own leadership goals and track their own impact. How are they supporting and influencing this cultural shift?
Make themselves accountable too.
Exactly. They have to lead by example. Show some vulnerability, actively seek out and genuinely listen to customer feedback, especially the tough stuff. Participate in CX training alongside their teams. Don't just mandate it.
Walk the talk.
Precisely. Establish regular forums, dedicated time for leadership teams to openly discuss CX, what's working, what are the challenges, how can we align better, and foster transparency. Share the wins, yes, but also be open about the failures and what's being learned across the whole organization.
That transparency piece is powerful.
It really is. When leadership treats culture not as some soft secondary thing, but as a fundamental operational priority, like finance or sales, that's when you can achieve real, lasting transformation across the entire company.
Wow. This has been incredibly insightful, a true deep dive into connecting culture and customer experience. As we start to wrap this up, what's the kind of big picture takeaway you really want our listeners to hold on to?
I think it's the fundamental connection between your CX culture and your employee experience. There are two sides of the same coin. Think of it as the human ROI.
Human ROI, I like that.
Yeah. When your employees feel genuinely valued, when they feel supported, when they're connected to a mission that truly prioritizes empathy and great customer interactions, they become more engaged, more motivated, more loyal themselves.
Right.
And that creates this amazing flywheel effect. Engaged, happy employees naturally lead to more satisfied, more loyal customers, which drives growth, which then allows you to invest even more back into nurturing that positive customer-centric culture.
It becomes this virtuous cycle where everything reinforces everything else.
Exactly.
So, what's the final thought, the provocative idea you want to leave everyone mulling over?
Well, just look at the brands we all admire, the really beloved ones,
Yeah.
the Apples, the Zappos, the Disneys, maybe Patagonia. They aren't just good at customer experience. They fundamentally live it.
It's in their DNA, like we said at the start.
It really is.
Yeah.
Every team, every decision, every process seems to revolve around the customer. And what drives that deep alignment, it's their culture. It's deeply ingrained, consciously nurtured. And the thing is, in today's world, CX excellence isn't just a nice differentiator anymore.
It's table stakes.
It's basically table stakes for long-term survival and success. And the only truly authentic, sustainable way to achieve that level of excellence is by building it from the inside out, by cultivating it within your own organization's core. So the challenge I'd leave everyone with is this. Take a really honest look. How deeply is customer centricity truly embedded in your organization's culture right now? And maybe more importantly, what's the very first step, even a small one, that you could take towards building a more aligned, more thriving, and ultimately a more customer